on the street by way of a KPMG survey is that 87% of CEOs plan to reward employees for being back in the office. Almost exclusively plan to reward for that. Let's get to it. All right, so according to this KPMG survey, and I'm going to read verbatim what it is that they said. 87% of CEOs plan to reward employees who work in the office by giving them favorable assignments, raises, and promotions, according to a release that happened in 2023. And this is from 1,300 chief executives, all right? So this is not an insignificant number of people who are participating in this survey. The thing about this is that, so a few things come to mind for me on this data. Number one is that the world is changing, okay, gang? The return to office is a thing that is happening on the small stage as well as on the mega stages, right? So we think about the Metas and the bigger corporations that are out there, the Googles. These folks are having people come back into the office, and folks are pushing back. They're like, why is this necessary? We've been, kicking butt. During COVID, we were just as successful in doing our work as before COVID. And there's some truth to that. When COVID happened and the entire world basically stopped and people were working from home, folks were incredibly successful in doing their work, okay? But also remember this, the entire world was shut down. So there was no flights. There were no grocery shops. You had to go grocery shop at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna take you down memory lane, right? You couldn't go to the movies. You couldn't even go to an in-person doctor's appointment. All you could do was walk around your block over and over and over again. And if you had a puppy, which many of us got, right? Not me, because I had kids at home doing homeschool. But if you had a puppy, you got to walk with the puppy, right? Like that's what was happening in the world during COVID. So it is a false equivalent for us to say, oh, well, during COVID, we were able to be just as productive working in the office or working at home as we were working in the office, because we're not in the state of COVID like we were previously, meaning the world is open. People are going to the movies. I literally went to a movie where a person was like annoyed that they were on a Zoom in their pocket, and while watching the movie, and were irritated that people were texting them about the Zoom that they were on when they were really not in the Zoom. Now, hey, that's not even an exaggeration. That really happened. But I don't think that that's what most people are doing working from home. But enough people are engaging in some not great behavior that is making leaders say, we got to get people back into the office and optimize the performance of our teams, okay? So this KPMG study is not surprising to me. I do want for us to also think about this. The world is not going to reverse in time and go back to pre-COVID. So any CEO, any C-suite representative or vice president or team lead who believes that the teams are going to go back to the way they were in 2018, you're wrong. Okay, we can't reverse time. So we got to try to figure out how to do a balance where, there's a certain number of hours in the workplace or a certain number of time where people are coming together and spending time together. We got to be pretty reasonable on that front. And employees, you got to be kind of reasonable too. The world has shifted, but it hasn't shifted so epically that now human beings coming together is not a beautiful experience, right? Human beings coming together in real life, right? As my children would say, IRL, it still does make a big difference in the workplace and in society. So gang, just think about it. Think about ways for us to reach middle ground. Take these things into consideration as you're thinking about your return to office initiatives. Number one, be flexible, right? Allow people to be able to pick up a sick child or go to a doctor's appointment or take their parent to, an appointment. Have that level of flexibility available in whatever your return to office is, because gang, return to office is happening. In most companies where it's over 30 people, return to office, most people are thinking like it's really important for us to be able to continue to be a viable and competitive company. We got to get people to come together sometimes. So flexibility is number one. Number two, update your performance metrics, okay? Butts in seats it should have never been a metric for, butts in seats should have never been a metric for whether or not a person was successful, right? You need to make sure that your evaluation systems are specific, right? They're called SMART goals. They're specific and measurable and actionable and the rest of the letters, but you gotta make sure that you're focusing on real, tangible, practical goals that help you determine if a person is being successful in their job or if they're not being so successful in their job. Number three, Make sure that you are incorporating the soft skills is what they like to call it, right? How people correspond with one another. If they're a team player, if they're willing to pick up the slack, if they're being left behind or not, right? If you see the entire workforce is moving together in a very effective and efficient and driven manner, but you've got a couple people who are, falling behind, then maybe you can make a specific routine for them, right? Versus saying, okay, these two people are falling behind, so now everybody's ecosystem has to change. All I'm saying is think outside the box. Reimagine what is possible, because we're not going to roll back the time to pre-COVID, and gang, we're also not going to roll back the time to the highlights of COVID, right? When everyone was sheltering in place and couldn't leave the house. So we've got to get somewhere in between. And I think that's the future. So word on the street is that people are incentivizing folks coming into the workplace. There's not a lot we can do about that, but there is something that we can do to make sure that it's done in an equitable and inclusive manner as possible. That doesn't say it's all or nothing, right? It can't be an all or nothing. That's the future. So thanks for joining me. If you got a different perspective, jump in the chat. Tell me your perspective on it, because I know that this is not popular opinion, and I respect that, but I am letting you know where the trend line is headed. All right, I'll see you all later.